The primary season for the Republicans has really actually kind of taken off because let's be honest, this has been the case since 2020. The only two real contenders for the Republican nomination at this time, and it's been true again for about 2 years, are Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. That's it. Those are the only two real contenders. And they both have their pluses, they both have their minuses. But as of right now, I'm a DeSantis guy. I think I said this in one of my first videos that I think DeSantis has all of the upside to Trump. He has all the upside to Trump with very, very few of the downsides to Trump. So that's what I'm kind of getting at here, is that's why I'm, as of right now, I'm on Team DeSantis. And I'm going to go over, the first 10 that popped into my head. I'm going to go over the first 10 reasons why I'm a DeSantis guy right now. Again, DeSantis hasn't even declared yet that he's going to run. So as of right now, this may be a moot point. He might not run. I doubt it. I think it's pretty clear that he's going to run. It's just a matter of when he decides to run. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. Most likely, I think it'll probably be somewhere in June, maybe mid-July. He wants to make sure he gives himself plenty of time to actually go out and campaign. He's already made all of the basic stops. He's been to Iowa. I think he went up to New York during the 2022 election cycle. That probably got him in with some of the news organizations in New Hampshire. So he was up there. He's been out to California, to the Reagan Library. This is all signs of somebody who plans to run for president as a Republican. So let me go through. I'll just go through my Twitter thread that I put out today. So why I am likely voting for DeSantis in the Republican primary over Trump. Number one, Trump lost in 2020 as soon as he locked this down. That decision by itself led to every other negative thing that cost Trump that election. I've been very clear that I think the election could not have been rigged against Trump if Trump hadn't locked us down. Because as soon as that lockdown happened, we were done. Now you can say, oh, DeSantis locked down his state too. True. But when DeSantis opened up about 2 months later, 6 weeks later, Trump was bashing him for it, saying it was a bad idea to be opening up, saying that it wasn't a good thing. That is not where we need to be. And we are suffering the consequences of that right now because Trump is the one that locked us down. He's the one that said we needed to lock down. Number two, Trump is the reason that Georgia and Arizona have 2 Democrat U.S. senators. Don't give me that bullshit about Kyrsten Sinema is independent now. That's stupid. That's absolutely stupid. She still caucuses with the Democrats. She still largely votes with Democrats. That's a stupid thing. He told Georgia voters to not vote in 2020 in the runoff, and low Republican turnout is the reason why Georgia has 2 Democrat senators in the U.S. Senate. It's ridiculous. Arizona, Kyrsten Sinema should have never been able to win that Senate seat, and somehow she did. With Trump, Arizona, I know it's a purple state now, but Arizona had always been a solid red state, and Trump lost it. Trump is the one that lost Arizona. So, yeah, Trump is the reason why there are 4 effectively red state Democrat U.S. senators, and that's just unacceptable. So, and if you want to say, oh, well, DeSantis, where's his track record of getting Republicans elected? Well, there are 2. Well, DeSantis was on the ticket this time around in 2022. Marco Rubio won in a landslide too. And it's because DeSantis, not only had coattails down ballot, but he had coattails up ballot, he made sure that there were plenty of House races that swung Republican. I mean, he won Miami-Dade County. Marco Rubio won by a lot more than he did last time he ran, and that's because DeSantis was on the ballot. So, moving on. This is a little bit similar to number 2, but Trump is spending more time bashing solid Republicans than bashing Joe Biden Democrats. And he's using left-wing sources to do it. So Trump is actually, when I've seen more things about him bashing DeSantis than I have seen of him bashing all the Democrats. Joe Biden especially, but especially any other Democrat. I mean, there are plenty of Democrats to bash, so I don't get it. He is bashing DeSantis all this time and other Republicans. He's posting links to left-wing websites and left-wing news outlets, and as like little feeder for like, oh, DeSantis is might get called out with bogus allegations of sexual misconduct and blah blah blah. It almost is hinting that Trump is going to release sexual misconduct allegations that he knows are false as a part of it. Now, in general, I don't have a problem with mudslinging in political campaigns, especially on my side, on the Republican side, because if you want to be president, Democrats aren't going to pull any punches. I mean, you saw what they did to Brett Kavanaugh. You saw what Democrats did to Clarence Thomas. You saw what Democrats did even to Amy Coney Barrett. I mean, they tried calling her racist because she adopted black kids. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, it's he's spending more time bashing Republicans right now than he is Democrats. And I understand that you gotta you're on the offense, and Trump is the front runner, and he should be out in front trying to make sure he clears the field, but it's not helpful. This kind of lines up with, why Georgia has 2 Democrat senators right now, because Trump decided to bash the Republican governor and the Republican Secretary of State there, and Republicans in Georgia didn't turn out to vote. There you go. Republicans lost, and that cost us the Senate. Moving on from Trump now, because I say this a lot, if your whole idea of who should you vote for is based off of, well, the other guy sucks, that's not good enough. So the only governors who handled the lockdown better than DeSantis were governors who didn't lock down at all. So considering DeSantis has, I think, the oldest average population of any state, I think maybe there's one other state. I think it's Maine. Maine is, I think, older on average than Florida. So yeah, I mean, but Maine has what, like 2 million people, maybe 1.5 million. It's a fairly small state by comparison. Florida is the 3rd most populous state in the country, and so I can understand him being a bit more cautious, considering that a lot of senior citizens live there, and COVID was actually more deadly and was a bigger problem for elderly people. So it does make sense that he would be a bit more cautious. So yeah, the only people that handled the lockdowns better than DeSantis were, states like South Dakota, who didn't lock down at all. So yeah, that's really it. You can kind of give Brian Kemp of Georgia a little bit of credit, but I didn't see Kemp out there trying to get legislation passed to make sure that things like mask mandates were banned and in schools and things like that. So DeSantis was doing things where it's like, oh, you're still trying to implement this at the local level? Well, no, we're not allowing that. That's not okay. So we're getting rid of all the fear and nonsense that went along with the lockdowns. We're moving on. So even the governors that shut down for a little bit, which I could understand, but then came back later and said, okay, we're opening up now. DeSantis did all he could to make sure that they were when they opened up. No, we're opening back up. So again, DeSantis' first term policies in Florida turned that state from the most purple state in the country to one of the reddest states. And I think it's the reddest state over with a population over 2 million. It's more red than Texas now. And that's just in one term. He won the election in 2018 by like 30,000 votes. And then he wins by over 1 million votes in 2022. So his first term changes Florida. Remember, Florida voted for Obama twice. And again, only elected DeSantis by a very slim margin. So he was able to, take this, he's turned Florida in, to what we were hoping Texas would be, which is a solid red state, one that you don't have to worry about. I don't think in 2024, probably for the next 10 years at least, I don't think you have to worry about Florida. I think Florida is a solidly, definitively red state now. Texas, we'll see. And I think it's because DeSantis' leadership has been the key reason for that. Number 6, what everyone thought was meant by draining the swamp, which was getting rid of all the corrupt bureaucrats and bureaucracy at the federal level. At the state level, DeSantis actually did that. You've seen it. He went through. He fired a whole bunch of state employees and bureaucrats that were just soaking up a paycheck and putting their doing stupid shit. He got rid of a bunch of leakers that were leakers in his administration really early. He made sure to fire those people, get them out of there. And then on top of that, just a few months ago, there was a DA in Tampa, and I got a little bit of firsthand knowledge because I have a family member who lives in Tampa. That DA was elected and said, "Oh, well, I'm not going to enforce any of these laws." So DeSantis said, "Well, I have a constitutional right and authority to fire you, to get rid of you if you're not going to enforce the law." So he did that. So for anybody who's thinking, oh, DeSantis won't be as gung-ho on, firing a whole bunch of people at the federal level the way Trump has promised to be, I don't believe that. I think DeSantis will be just as gung-ho on clearing out the rot in the federal government as much as you can. I think he will. And the reality is Trump had 4 years and didn't do it. He actually brought in a lot of swamp creatures. John Bolton. John Bolton might have been somebody I defended back in the 2000s during the whole war on terror thing. He's not somebody from the new Republican Party. The new Republican Party we're not, neocons don't run this party anymore. So we need to get that through our heads. So getting rid of the swamp, he's already demonstrated that he has done that, and I think he'll do it at the federal level as well. So this is all, I'm going over all of this, and this is without legislative wins. Being able to work within your defined powers and authority. There's a lot of policy and legislative wins that DeSantis can speak of in Florida. He, first of all, again, his election ability, he produced a supermajority in both houses of the Florida legislature. Now, in the short term, for the next few years, that's going to lead to a lot of major conservative legislative victories in Florida in the coming months. So I've heard constitutional carry is going to be something that happens in Florida. There's going to be a 6-week abortion ban. He already passed a 15-week abortion ban. And now we're talking about a 6-week abortion ban. He's going to ramp up school choice. And that would be a huge deal for me personally. I live in California right now, and I'm trying so hard to get to a school choice state, because right now, I'm needing some additional educational services for one of my kids, and I can't get those services. Really, it's such a hassle to try to get these services unless I send my kid to the public school. So I have to pull my kid out of a very good private school that I really like and that he's become accustomed to, and I have to send him to a public school because that's the only recourse I have. It's the only way I know I can get services in place, you know, within a timely fashion. By timely fashion, I mean within a month. So that's a huge deal. That's a major conservative victory, and that's going to happen sometime in the next few months. Those are major legislative wins that DeSantis is going to be able to have, in addition to other things. I've heard some other things. They don't come to mind right off the top of my head, but they are big deals. Now, DeSantis probably does come with some baggage. I haven't heard a whole lot. There's some baggage where a lot of people think he's a rhino, which doesn't make any sense considering the things I've already listed. But he doesn't come with the same kind of baggage that Trump has. Now, a lot of the stuff that, you know, the baggage Trump comes with, I generally don't care. You know, like a lot of Trump's baggage is bullshit. I mean, the whole racist thing, we all know that's bullshit. You know, we all know that there's a lot of baggage though that he comes with. Again, a lot of it's manufactured by the media that just hates him. But that baggage translates at elections. There's so much baggage that Trump does encourage people to turn out to vote against him. That is not something that normally happens. Most people, if they're just voting against someone, they don't even show up. They don't show up to vote. They don't fill out their ballots. Even if they get something in the mail, they get their ballot in the mail, they're just like, I'll fill it out later. And then election day is, you know, come and gone. And they're like, oh, I forgot to vote. Oh, well. Trump doesn't do that. Trump gets people fired up to vote against him. And, you know, I think the media will try, but I don't think the media is going to be able to rile people up to vote against DeSantis in the same numbers that they'll vote against Trump. Number 9, it's a little bit ageist, but DeSantis isn't 80 years old. I am so sick of boomers running this country. There's been a boomer president almost my entire life. And I don't know if George H.W. Bush would be. Nah, he's probably not considered a boomer. Yeah, no, he's not considered a boomer. But I mean, you know, I was 5 years old when he was elected. So screw him. I mean, but you know, we had Clinton for 8 years, then George W. Bush for 8 years. I guess technically, I don't know if Obama counts as a boomer. I mean, because I think he's born in early 60s, 61, something like that. I don't know if he counts as a boomer. I'm going to say he counts as a boomer, like a late boomer. And Trump is one of the early boomers. So, yeah, I mean, I'm tired of boomers running this country. It's time for a new generation to be running the country. And I think DeSantis is that guy. I think, I think he can. I think it's time for that new generation to come in with some fresh ideas, fresh blood that is looking towards the future and not so beholden to really, I mean, the boomers are like the worst generation. I mean, they're the ones that straddled us with Social Security that we can't pay back because they decided not to have kids. They're the ones that voted in people who, you know, straddle us with Medicare and Medicaid. So those three things are screwing over every generation after the boomers. They screwed over their own kids and grandkids to make their lives better. I mean, forgive me if I'm sick of boomers running this country. And again, the last one I have here, DeSantis is a better, more disciplined politician. He has all of the benefits that come with Trump. The main thing that I liked about Trump, if I wasn't living in California, in 2016, if I was living in a swing state, say Ohio or Florida in 2016, I would have voted for Trump. It's because he brought in that fighting spirit. Like I said this about George W. Bush in his first term, is that he had what I like to call balls. And Republicans had not had balls, the testicular fortitude to fight since the 2004 elections. They just didn't. They were, I mean, they were just pussies, absolute pussies. And I mean, even in 2016, all those, you had such accomplished Republicans in the 2016 primary, and Trump just kind of swatted them all away and just beat them all because they were all chicken shits. They were all afraid to really go after Trump or to really push the boundaries, and Trump just didn't care. And I really kind of gravitated towards that. What really kind of put me over the edge towards actually being a Trump supporter is I started looking up some of the things they were talking shit about him, and I said, these are all lies. These are at least half truths. You know, Trump never said that. Trump never did that. And there was a lot of that. So yeah. DeSantis has all of those positives, and Trump has a lot of positives. I really appreciate when he just goes after the media, because I've said this about, like, Michael Malice has said this a lot. The corporate journalists, you should have the same disdain for them that the same contempt you hold for a tobacco executive, you should hold for a corporate journalist. And I love when Trump does that. DeSantis has proven he does the same thing and can do the same thing. The thing is, DeSantis really has none of the negatives that we know of yet. I'm sure Trump will probably bring those out once DeSantis jumps into the race. But you never hear about DeSantis having cheated on his wife. Now, I don't care about necessarily cheating on your wife, especially if your spouse kind of forgives you, unless it's, rape, Bill Clinton. But that kind of character baggage, along with, he's had enough shady dealings in the past that have been an issue. So again, this goes back a little bit to what I said before, is that, he doesn't come with a lot of that. Trump also just says stupid shit. And, DeSantis doesn't really say stupid shit. And that's really it. So DeSantis makes it easy for you to vote for him. And he also doesn't really make it easy for you to vote against him. It's like, okay, I don't like Joe Biden, but it's not worth my time to go and vote against DeSantis. That's kind of it. And it's just overall a more polished and disciplined politician. And I think he can pick his punches a lot better than Trump. Whereas Trump is that heavy hitter that's going to walk in and just throw haymakers at you. When you do that, a skilled fighter is going to knock you the fuck out. I think DeSantis is a skilled fighter. And I don't know if DeSantis has that knockout blow at the national level that Trump does. I know he does at the state level, but, we'll see how that pans out. Now, I think Ron DeSantis is the best candidate for President of the United States in 2024. All of that being said, if Trump is the nominee, I'm voting for him. All of this nonsense, if you are truly America first, if you are conservative, if you're a Republican, if you are right-leaning, hell, if you are kind of a left-leaning moderate kind of person, if you're there and you're not voting Republican in 2024 for president, you're a fucking idiot. Absolute fucking moron. So it doesn't matter who it is. If you're one of the America First or, MAGA, if you're just your traditional conservative Republican, you need to be voting Republican this time around. That's what I'm doing. I don't really care who it is. It could be Nikki Haley. It could be Mike Pompeo, even though neither of them, I mean, yeah, I'm not too thrilled about either one of them. Maybe it's vice president. Yeah, I could see either one of them being vice president. I don't care. But yeah, right now, I think Ron DeSantis is the best candidate for president over Trump. But again, if Trump gets the nomination, I'm voting for him. Bottom line.